God is love. Blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see God. If we want to come closer to God, to feel God's presence more in our life, then we need to allow God's love into our heart. This means we have to open our heart and allow it to relax, so that it is not always held in tension. Because essentially, tension is fear. When we are afraid, we are tense, and the very deepest tensions are held in our heart. On a deep level, as mortal humans, we are afraid of pain. We are afraid of punishment, afraid of rejection, afraid of humiliation, afraid of judgment, afraid of anger. There are so many subconscious fears that keep our heart tight and afraid to open up. So we have to release all our fears, so there is no tension in our heart. Because only then, when fear is absent, can we have full trust in God. When our faith is total, there can be no fear, and our heart will be at ease, happy, free and joyful. Again, we will be as little children, enjoying the joyful innocence of our heart. So it is important to be aware of when there is fear present in our heart and in our body. Stress, tension, anxiety, they are all clear signs that fear is present. So firstly, we need to observe if our body is tense and uptight. Is there tension being held in our muscles, even in our facial muscles? It is actually very exhausting to hold tension in your body, but the moment we take a deep breath and allow our muscles to relax, there is more ease in our body as tension disappears. As tension disappears, fear disappears. Where there is relaxation and ease in our body, there cannot be fear. The Bible tells us, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear has torment. He that fears is not made perfect in love. So this is telling us that where there is fear, there cannot be love. And where there is love, there cannot be fear. So as tension, which is fear, disappears, what replaces it? Relaxation, a feeling of goodness in our body, a sense of inner harmony. Fear and anxiety are replaced by love. Fear is disharmony. Tension is disharmony. Stress is disharmony. Anxiety and worry are disharmony. That is why they make us tired and eventually sick, because they poison the body with disharmony in its very cells. So we have to let these poisons go and replace them with the perfect harmony that naturally belongs in our body. God's harmony, a deeply felt sense of being in alignment with God, where we feel God's love and we feel God's peace in our body and in our heart. Relaxing our body and allowing harmony to be restored is what frees us from the subtle grip of fear, of tension, which creeps in and accumulates with every negative thought that we listen to. This is the voice of the negative ego, which could also be called the voice of Satan, the devil. The voice in our mind which tells us what will go wrong, why we should be afraid, and how we are going to suffer. All it does is paint negative pictures, full of darkness, devoid of joy and happiness. It is like a snake whispering in our ear, "Be afraid, stay in control, don't be open, or you will be taken advantage of. You will experience pain. Close your heart and guard yourself against all the threat in the world, against all the untrustworthy people around you." However, the threat is within our own mind, whispering these subtle messages to us. We have to be aware of them, aware of the fear they attempt to sow in our heart. We have to be aware of the negative and fearful ego's desire for us to tense up in fear, to lose our joy, to lose our gratitude and our trust in God, to forget the total freedom and security that full faith in God brings us. The negative, fearful ego wants to divide us from others, to keep us afraid and isolated. It wants to weaken us by weakening our heart, and it attempts to do this by sowing fear in our heart, so that we might succumb to the vision of hell it wants us to believe in. It wants to lead us away from God, into doubt, into darkness. So it is very important to be aware of all fearful and negative thoughts that might appear in our mind, and be sure we do not engage with them. Instead, we bring our attention away from them, back to our heart, back to our total faith and trust in God, back to the joy and total protection that Christ brings us, back to love and gratitude. For this is God's realm, the realm of light, beauty and glory, of security and freedom, joy and laughter, innocence and humility. Your heart is a meeting place for God, the kingdom of heaven within, where you experience divine communion. When we are in the presence of God, when we feel the warmth of His love in our heart, when we are overwhelmed with gratitude for His mercy, compassion and forgiveness, then there is no need to think, to question, or to mentally understand what is happening. Because this is how doubt and fear can creep back in, through thinking. Thought is the source of doubt and fear. Communion with God is a deeply heartfelt experience that goes beyond thinking. We are immersed in God's truth, in God's love. We are in the full presence of God where not a single thought is needed, because it is in perfect love where we find our restoration and our healing, where our wounded and anxious heart can once again become courageous and strong, joyful and radiant, a pure vessel for God's power to work through and bless others. When we think about ourselves, about our mistakes, our failings, what we lack, our insecurities, we allow interference to arise in our heart. Notice this contains the word fear. Our self-focused thoughts interfere with our heart's ability to love, to trust, to inspire and uplift the heart of others. Our heart is like a fire that brings light and warmth to those around us, and people can feel it when our heart is burning brightly. When we bring all our attention to our heart, we fan the flames and it becomes a transformative force. This means that in the presence of your compassion, your joy and your love, people will feel their own heart begin to lift, to awaken, because God is shining brightly within you and through you. Your joy is infectious, and it can inspire others to move away from the realm of fear and doubt, of sadness and anger. Your heart is like a shop window for God, so that in your presence others can see and feel what God can offer them. Freedom from fear, freedom from pain, isolation and sadness. In their place, joy and happiness, courage and unshakable strength. This is why it is very important that we develop the strength of our heart, so that we can fully house God's power, which is truly almighty. It is like an electrical current that can light up a whole world, and it wants to flow through our heart. But if our heart plays host to fear, then we will feel weak and afraid of inviting God's full presence into us, because we will be afraid it might destroy us. But God knows our heart, knows its weaknesses, and knows what it is capable of. Therefore, God continues to work on us on a daily basis, like a potter working at his wheel. And he allows the devil, the negative ego, to test us, tempt us, to try and make us quick to anger, to make us greedy, judgmental and critical of others. God is constantly watching us to see where we are at, how pure our heart is. The purer our heart, the closer he can come to us. and the more He can entrust us with. God does not punish us if we stray, because the punishment comes from the straying itself. If we stray, we move further away from God and closer to the darkness. This is the worst punishment, and it is self-inflicted. We experience an increase in darkness, in fear, in anger or greed, and our heart closes up. Joy and peace instantly disappear, and we find ourselves in colder and more shadowy realms, where fear and doubt reign. No human being wants to dwell here, yet sadly so many do. They have become lost in their own world of serving themselves, pursuing all the desires and pleasures that are offered to them by the world. They have lost touch with the spiritual fruits of their heart, with joy, peace and love, and thus they seek the poor worldly substitutes of power, self-importance, physical pleasure, consumerism, entertainment and distraction. True happiness, purpose and fulfillment are absent, and insecurity and fear reign in their heart without them even realizing it. Knowing God is the antidote to this deep human sickness, this deep human emptiness, fear and isolation. Purifying our heart by freeing it from the constrictions of fear and anger, and allowing it to be open and filled with God's love, is the healing of the painful separation, the healing of the loneliness, insecurity, doubt and fear. To come close to God and fully feel and accept His love is to be brought back into the divine family. To remember that you are His child and that He has been waiting for you, waiting to pour His love upon you and show you the glorious realm in which you belong. It is a realm of endless peace, radiant light, deep gratitude and joyful celebration. All we have to do is turn our back on the world of division, doubt, fear and darkness, and with an open and trusting heart, walk joyfully into the light of Christ, into the loving arms of God, our Father.